It's nothing, just something that Mr. Baker let me take home. It's not that telescope, is it? She asked. Marcus nodded meekly. That's cool, she said. But there's a smartphone app that calculates the circumference of both solar and lunar eclipses, right? No, thought Marcus, he didn't know. He didn't have a smartphone. Who cares, he told Taylor. His words came out harsher than he intended. Taylor put her earbuds back in her ears. I'm going to ignore you now, she said matter-of-factly. Marcus thought back to the moment by the lockers as he stood in the field and began the 5-minute countdown until the eclipse. He wished for a moment that Taylor was there with him. An eclipse seemed so monumentous, so awe-inspiring. It seemed a shame not to have anyone to share the experience with. No one else seemed to think that it was anything more than a distraction. He glanced up at the bleachers filling with parents and younger siblings, fans, and groupies, all bubbling with anticipation for the big game. Marcus pushed the thought out of his head and checked the time on his boring old phone. 2 minutes left. Attention in the outfield. Couch Bernardi's booming voice echoed through a loudspeaker and jolted Marcus out of his reverie. Bernardi was waving his arms wildly above his head, trying to get his team members to pay attention. Due to a solar eclipse, the game will be delayed approximately 30 minutes. I repeat, the JV baseball team will be delayed 30 minutes due to a solar eclipse. The team stopped for a moment, collectively shrugging, and then returned to whatever they'd been doing before. Marcus was so distracted that he hardly realized the eclipse had begun. He snapped back to the filtered telescope to watch the moon inch its way in front of the sun, making the sun look like a crescent. As soon as he looked at the sky close up through the telescope, the world around him went quiet. The moon crept on, covering a quarter and then nearly half of the sun. In mere minutes, the sky darkened. The sudden change felt odd and eerie, like a celestial power was using a remote control to shift the moon across the sky. But Marcus wasn't scared. He felt excitement surge through him right down to his toes. This is what I've been waiting for, he thought. Marcus hardly blinked. He felt instantly transported high up into the heavens, floating across the clouds. The remaining crescent of the sun was blazing while the moon seemed to be moving faster and faster. Then the darkness of the moon appeared closer and closer until Marcus realized he was no longer looking at the moon, but something else, fast-moving and round. He heard a startling crack. The telescope jolted, and the eyepiece pressed hard against his socket. Marcus fell backwards onto his behind. It was over before he realized what had happened. Marcus scrambled up to his feet and held tightly to the tripod. When he looked through the eyepiece again, he only saw jagged shards. The lens was broken. Marcus began combing through the grass, searching frantically for whatever pieces of glass he could recover. That's when he came across the baseball. How could you do this to me? He yelled at no one in particular. He grabbed the baseball and slammed it into the earth. What idiot had thrown a baseball at him? Then he picked up the ball again and headed towards the diamond. By this point, Marcus had all but forgotten about the eclipse. His stomach lurched as he thought about telling Mr. Baker what had happened. Sure, it wasn't his fault, but he had positioned the telescope just so. He set up in a baseball field and had been so focused he failed to notice the object heading towards him, even as he looked right at it. He should have been quicker, faster, and better, but he wasn't skilled enough to make the team, and certainly wasn't fast enough to avoid the assault. As Marcus stepped onto the baseball field, he realized he was the only one moving. Fans and players all stood still like statues. They were crowded around another filtering telescope that a parent had brought to watch the eclipse. Each person was trying to get a chance to look through the telescope. There was still a sliver of sunshine remaining, but to Marcus, the moment felt like the depths of night. Marcus squeezed the baseball in his hand and lifted it above his shoulder. It didn't matter who threw it at. He just needed a target. Someone who, hey man, you okay? Marcus hardly noticed the first baseman jogging towards him. Did I do that? Did we? He asked, looking at the telescope. By Marcus, bummer. Well, I certainly didn't do it myself, said Marcus. It was an accident. I guess we kind of weren't paying enough attention with the eclipse happening and all. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? With that, they both joined the crowd, wanting their own chance to see the eclipse. Marcus softened. He was tired of getting wrapped up in petty problems when there were plenty of big things in life that were far more important. He knew accidents happened. So much was beyond his control. Yeah, he said to the first baseman, the eclipse is unbelievable. As the moon blanketed the sun, Marcus's chance came up to look through the telescope. But he let the first baseman look through it first. And then, minutes later, everyone looked on as the moon moved past, letting Saturday afternoon's sun shine bright once again.